Okay, Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
All right, let's get started. Thank you all for being with us today. If we can bring the meeting to an order, and Anne, when you sit back down, if we could do roll call.
Okay, yes. All right, Chief Solberg,
Here.
Kent Volkmer.
Rodriguez for Kent Volkmer.
Perfect. Joe Brocious, absent. He's out of town. Sheriff Dedman. Director Jorgensen. I've got Susan Trask. DPS Director. Walter Mercer.
Walter Mercer for DPS.
Rachel Mitchell. Sheriff Paul Penzone.
Dave Letourneau in for Sheriff Penzone.
Great. Chief Alanis. Robert Smith.
Here.
Brian Wright. And Brad Conley. All right. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
All righty. Thank you. Let's see. Let's start with, make sure I'm not missing anything. Me. Hopefully you all had a chance to review the November 18th, 2022 board meeting minutes. Anybody have any corrections or any questions? All right, if I could get a motion to approve the minutes from November 18th, 2022. Anyone?
Motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
I think that was Robert Smith, and I'm not sure who the other one was. And did you get that?
Dave Letourneau, second.
Thank you, David. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up is the 2023, the board chair and vice chair elections. And then we have a Director McGuffner, and we have a vacancy, correct? Or we need to replace, is it Joe that we needed to replace?
Mr. Chair, members,
Yes.
we, Mr. Brocious has been a continuation on his public member position for, I think we're going on the second year now. So but we also have, and I know Jamie's going to report on this, we have several vacancies that are coming up. In addition to Joe's, there was one from 2022 that wasn't ever renewed, and several for 2023. So I think we're just in a holding pattern with Joe like we've been.
Okay. Do we need to re-elect the chair and vice chair then? Is that
Yes.
the next step?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to stay on as chair unless someone else wants to step up, and Kent's not here, so I'm guessing he's not going to say yes. But I'm willing to stay on as chair. And David, I don't know if you spoke to Kent if he's good to stay on as chair. I'm assuming he is.
Yeah.
So I'll open it up if there are any other nominations for either the chair or the vice chair. Please speak up. Okay, I'm not hearing any. So do we need to have a separate motion to reconfirm? Okay, so if I can get a motion to, let's start with vice chair, a motion to recommend reappointing or continuing Kent Volkmer as the vice chair. Someone could make that motion.
Chairperson, this is Robert Smith. I motion that Kent Volkmer be reappointed as vice.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Susan Trask,
Second.
seconds.
Thank you, Susan. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, if we could get a motion, this is kind of weird, but a motion to approve me as continuing as the chair. Open that up.
Yes, I motion that Chief be reappointed as chair.
Thank you, Robert. Do we have a second?
Susan Trask seconds.
Thank you, Susan. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All right, thank you. And we will continue as chair and vice chair. That's all I have for my report. I will now turn it over to Director McGuffin. We can discuss the other vacancies and the rest that's on your list. So, Director McGuffin.
Mr. Chairman, members, good morning. If we have a little bit of an issue in here, it's because we're kind of quasi in person today with a vertical prosecutor meeting to follow this one. So the staff is all in one room along with some of our VP representatives. So we're kind of fighting a few of the echoes and things like that in here right now. As far as the DIFI director update, we sent out a message notifying the board that Evan Daniels had resigned his position with the change of administration at the governor's office. This week, we were informed that we have a new acting director. There has not been an appointment made yet for a full-time replacement, but one of our deputy directors within the organization, deputy director in charge of financial institutions, Shane Foster, has been named as the acting. I'd also like to kind of take just a second to acknowledge Evan Daniels and his contribution that he made to the ATA. He was a really good advocate on behalf of the ATA and made a lot of inroads for us when it came to especially budget issues with OSPB, and the governor's office. And I'll talk about some of that, how that's come to fruition today a little bit later. But Evan was really great to work with, and we certainly appreciated his leadership within the agency. So moving on to the state budget process, obviously it's in its infancy now, but Governor Hobbs released her executive budget on last Friday. And we were thrilled to see that the three issues that moved forward with Director Daniels last year actually made it into the budget. And so those things were the a big shot in the arm for the vertical prosecutor program, the ACT database subscription, and the fuel supplement for the task force. So these three things totaled $653,900. They went in their entirety. That's how they showed up. And as I've mentioned before, placement in the executive budget is critically important. Without that step, it's nearly impossible to get anything funded. So we're a long way to what could be from the finish line and what could be a very contentious budget cycle this year from what we're seeing. But this is just a critical first step, and so we were really happy to see how it is progressing so far. Moving on to the annual report, hopefully all board members received an email with a link to the annual report. This year we did something a little bit different. We streamlined it down. We cut it by about a third of what we normally do. We believe the content was still strong in it, and if you had a chance to open it up and take a look through it, we did a little bit different where Amanda created kind of a slideshow that took you upon each click right through our normal progression of it. Just wanted to acknowledge Anne's work, especially when it came to the narrative. She does a lot of writing with for the annual report, and of course all of the formatting and creative side of it is Amanda. So my thanks to both of them. Frank Ceballos also has a part of that with the budget side of it. So thanks to the entire staff for the annual report. It's always a a labor of love in December, it seems like. So moving on to the boards and commissions issue. As has been previously reported, we have multiple members who are now expired. And that starts with, Ann mentioned Joe Brocious. He is several years expired, but has graciously kept coming on the line with us in order to make the quorum happen. And through some of our research and notification, we understand that Brian Wright has been expired since about this time last year, January 17th of 22. His term expired. And then just this week, the Maricopa County Attorney, Rachel Mitchell, has expired. Brad Conley has expired, and Kent Volkmer has expired. So I had a discussion with boards and commissions on Wednesday. And as you can imagine, they are trying to get their feet on the ground over there. And so they didn't have any answers. I don't personally believe that this is an issue in that they know that there are those vacancies. They know that they are governor appointees. And it's our position, I think, at ATA that the members will stay in place if they're willing to do so, and until they're either another appointment is made or their term might be extended. So those are all, governor's office decisions. But we appreciate those members, even if they're expired, if they continue to stay on the board and continue to show up for meetings, because we always run kind of a danger of not establishing a quorum. So it would only take a couple members not showing up where we wouldn't be able to have meetings. So if that's kind of acceptable to everybody, the ball is definitely in their court. As far as the governor's office making those appointments, it's really nothing that we can do at this from the ATA side.
Director McGuffin, on behalf of Rachel Mitchell, is there anything we can do?
I don't think so at this point. We generally talk to boards and commissions several times a year and let them know what our vacancy situation is. And I think right now it's always difficult, even in an established administration, to get this done. And it seems like it's going to be much more of a challenge now with the change of administration, because they're just trying to figure out what's happening, and they're making these inquiries with every board and commission. So I think they're going to have a lot of work in front of them. So, and this is also a very difficult time for them, because with all the governor's appointments into directorships and such, there's a lot of work for boards and commissions to do. And I think those take definite priority to get them ready for confirmation. So I know that our board, along with a lot of other boards, is going to take a second seat to that.
Director McGuffin, for the vacancy,
Are there any
do we have
questions
names?
from any members on that issue?
Can you hear me?
I'll move on to our the ACT database. Just a couple things to report. It's pretty quiet over the holidays, actually. So we don't have a whole lot of database things that are reportable. We do have 2 projects that are pending with DPS right now. One of them is importing the miscellaneous data field from the entry screen. That field in particular, I think because it wasn't mandatory, was not part of the scope of work. So we have asked DPS we've asked CPI through DPS to get that field over into the database. We don't have any type of a timeline on that yet. It is definitely in CPI's queue, and spoke with DPS yesterday, and they have some higher priority projects that are working with CPI right now. So we don't expect that we're going to get immediate action on this. It is an important field, though, and we definitely want it over there as quickly as we can get it. The second thing that we're working, it's not a CPI issue, it's actually a DPS issue, and that is the terminal operator certification. to access the database. That's the same certification that law enforcement personnel have to, get driver's license information, criminal history information, that type of thing. We think that's needs to be a requirement into the system, and what it does is, when it's in place, there will have to be an interface that when somebody logs into ACT, it goes over kind of in the background and checks for TOC certification, and if that is affirmative, then access into the database will be granted. And it's just a good way to safeguard the data and make sure that anybody who is accessing it is authorized to do so. Again, that's a DPS issue, and that will require them to make, and they're probably their IT section to make that happen. My next item is one that we've heard before, and that is an ISA request coming to the board. We're halfway through the fiscal year. This is normally the month that we ask the board to approve an ISA over to the task force. All the same parameters are in place, and that the funding is coming from the ATA operating budget. And some of those funds are there because of the appropriated salaries of the ATA staff. The criteria that the task force will be saddled with is that they can only use the money for vehicle buildup, and any IT projects, and that's kind of the database that we have been funding. And so, as in previous years, ATA recommends an ISA in the amount of $200,000. So, Mr. Chair, at this point, I would ask for, I guess, for a request for that to be approved.
Okay, any discussion on that before we have a motion? Can you hear me, Director McGuffin?
Yes.
Okay, all right, making sure. Sorry, I just messed up my screen. If we can get a motion to approve the ISA for $200,000 between ATA and DPS.
Motion to approve the ISA.
Thank you, Robert. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh,
This
go ahead,
is Walt,
Jan.
this is Walter Mercer. Yes, I
Oh,
did not vote,
okay.
and I was about to ask that.
Okay,
Then that means there's only 6.
okay. We good to move on? He did not vote, or do we need to revote?
Well, I guess you need to know, because we currently have 7 members. So if he refuses, there's only 6. And I think Lynette's on the phone. Do we have to have that 7th person to be
I
able
don't think so, but I don't have a law degree, so what's the legal
Can you
opinion?
hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I don't think you need that 7th person, so I think you're okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Good, no problem. Back on track. Thank you. Back to you, Director.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you very much. My last item is pretty simple, just one slide. The DIFI analyst who normally does some of the research, excuse me, has been out. So we just have one slide that Amanda's going to put up here in just a second, or I can even speak to it. Normally Mary kind of looks at some data and looks for some outliers or interesting anomalies within the data, and that's generally what I report on. We really don't have that, so the report is pretty simple. This and I might be able to do it, Amanda, if let me see here a second. Oh, here we go. All right, so the new part of this data is the November and December theft and recovery numbers, and it's as you can see, September was high, a little bit higher, October lower, and then November lower. All of these are kind of what we would expect to see based on history. And then we see a little bit of a spike in December. And if history kind of repeats itself from what we've seen in the past, then we will probably see a little bit of an uptick in January as well, because December and January are usually a little bit higher for whatever reason. So there's really nothing that's I guess unusual in what these numbers are. And Mr. Chairman, members, if that concludes my report, then I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the director?
Yeah, happy Friday.
Okay, I'm on a Zoom
Okay.
meeting with the Arizona traffic.
David, if you could mute. Thank you, director. And we will move on to Frank for the financial report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Ooh. This is going to be interesting. Stand by for a second. Are you guys able to see a PowerPoint slide right now?
Yeah, it's not in presentation mode, but we see the screen. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
All right, perfect. Well, as of December 31st, 2022, the fund balance for AATA was $9,700,000. Year-to-date revenue, we had about 3.6 million in the first collection, and our investment income is doing very well this year. We're at $96,000. That is the most we've actually had in probably the last 2 to 3 years. So that right now brings our revenue for the year so far, $3,716,203. Appropriation, we've spent $133,000 and we still have $565,000 remaining. And I'll show you that how we're going to spend that in the expenditure plan. Our grants, we spent over 2.6 million and we still have about 2.7 million remaining to take care of the remaining of our vertical prosecutions and the task force. And we still have our $1,432 in SIMS funds. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about the assessment that we're currently in. So last assessment in 2022A, which was back in July of this of 22, but for FY23, we collected about $3.6 million. Right now for the 22B assessment, we brought in, as of this morning, what I was able to deposit was almost $4.5 million. Now, looking at the assessment and how things are coming in, I'm seeing pretty nice size increases from the last assessment, some up to about 5%, some to 4%. So with that being said, right now, there's a potential chance that we could actually have a 4 to 4.5% increase over the last assessment, which means that our assessment collection for right now will end up being about 3.7 million, and means that we will probably end our actual FY23 budget year collecting $7.4 million in assessment funds, which is the largest we've ever had, to my understanding. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Any questions on the numbers that I presented so far?
Frank, is that just more residents, so higher income, or are insurance companies actually paying what they're supposed to be paying?
Well, I don't have actual, data to state this, but I believe it's people moving to Arizona, and now that they have to register for car insurance in the correct state, this is why we're starting to see a huge increase. I don't believe it's anything to do with the insurance companies not reporting what they were supposed to in the past. I really do believe it's the growth of Arizona, and people are now having to true up their insurance with the correct state.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? All right, let me go ahead and exit out of this one and move over to the expenditure plan. I'm not used to using just one screen. Uh, so are you guys able to see the expenditure plan? Barely. You see that on your screen? Okay, good. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. Give me a second. Trying to zoom in here. Give me 1 second. All right, there we go. That should be a little bit better for all of you. Okay, so let's just talk about where we're going to be at. So right now, Director McGuffin mentioned that we will be giving DPS about $200,000 in the ISA. So that is already calculated inside this expenditure plan. The one thing that I just found out when I put this all together, with Director Daniels leaving the agency, we are going to have a little bit higher costs on payroll for the month of January because we had to pay up some of his vacation leave when he left, but it's not going to be that much to the ATA. So at the end of the day, we are going to have approximately $10 million in our fund balance at the end of this budget year. All of the information really hasn't changed very much from the last expenditure plan. So with that being said, are there any questions regarding the expenditure plan? If not, I would like a motion to continue to move forward with our expenditure plan as set forth.
Not hearing any questions. Could we have a motion?
Motion to move forward with the expenditure plan.
Thank you, Robert. Second.
Second.
Thank you, David. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
All right, well, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Next up, public awareness grant and programs. Ann?
Right, Mr. Chair, members. Can you hear me okay? We good? I hear an echo.
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
That's Frank. Sorry. Mr. Chair, members, fiscal year 23, we're in quarter 3 for our fiscal year 23 grants. And those were all just paid out by Frank last week. For the fiscal year 24 grant cycle, those will be due the end of May. Early June, we're looking to have hopefully a subcommittee meeting before the June, I believe, 16th board meeting. So that's just kind of the timeline for that. And I'll keep you posted as we move forward with an exact date. We always have to wait for the budget to get final. And the last couple of years, that hasn't happened till the end of June, sorry. So we'll just kind of figure out the timing for reviewing those new grants that come in. After this meeting, we have an in-person vertical prosecution meeting. We haven't done one of those in several years. We used to host those quite frequently. And so we're looking forward to kind of getting back to that. I know some folks will still have to Zoom in or attend by the Google Meet, but we're looking forward to getting everybody together today. So we have quite a few prosecutors, 3 of them at least, that are here in person that attended the board meeting. And they'll stick around for the meeting at 11:30. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Amanda. Amanda's going to cover some of the Auto Theft Authority public awareness campaigns that we've been a part of since the last board meeting.
Just bear with me one moment here while I get everything set up. Oh. It's not sharing my slideshow. There we go. Can I pull it up for you? It's because I'm on copper. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board. For our campaigns since our last meeting, we really focused on a good portion of our time was focused on the annual report. That did take some time, but what we did was we went into the holidays. So we really promoted again. People were out shopping and to concealing their valuables and information. We made a couple of different ads that you see hopefully on your screen now. Again, we wanted to remind folks that, thieves are always around. They go where opportunities are. So we wanted to go ahead and just remind everybody to be safe this past holiday season. Overall, statistically, we had some really good engagement on our posts. And as you can see here, what we've shared is some analytics from Facebook on here. Our reach these are the number of times that a post has appeared on someone's profile. It showed up in there. Anything that's a post engagement, they've actually clicked on it to read more. Reactions are they've actually given us a thumbs up, like, maybe they didn't like it. And then you see at the end, shares. Shares are really important to us. This is what expands our reach. Anytime anybody shares it within their network, it's something that we like to see. Facebook by far is one of the reasons I've showed you this one, is it shows our most, but as you can see, or if you're not aware, Instagram is owned by Facebook. So we have the bottom report both showing their trends. Blue line is going to be our Facebook one, page reach. So that means anywhere that our page for the Auto Theft Authority has gone above and beyond. We are on an upward swing for this on both our Facebook and Instagram. Now, if you look over into the lower left-hand corner, you'll see this is currently where our followers are. Our followers are our natural advocates. These are folks that have sat there and signed on to any of our social media accounts and said, they like what we're seeing. Let's go ahead and keep going. And they help share us our expansion. So far we're doing pretty good, but we've got some room to grow. And that is currently all I have at the moment. We'll have some more information for the next meeting where we're focusing on some ads that are driving for the current events that are going on. That's going to include our Super Bowl, our Waste Management Golf Center, as well as just some other normal good weather activities that we normally do. In addition to that, we do have one real quick one that we have. And did you want?
We're going to do it at the end of
Okay.
Captain.
We'll be featuring that one later.
All right, Mr. Chair. Unless there are any questions, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it. Any questions? Anybody? All right, moving on. Law Enforcement Subcommittee report. We have not met, so nothing new at this time. Robert, anything from Public Awareness Subcommittee?
Nothing to add.
Thank you, Robert. The Vertical Prosecution Subcommittee. Leslie, do you want to start us off?
Resulted in 8 matters, resulting in a change of plea. 10 cases were sentenced, with half of those receiving 5 years in the Department of Corrections or more. We had prosecution order in December and just $4,000. We also recently, just 3 days ago, both for BTTF prosecutors went out with a search warrant regarding different vehicle cards, luggage cards that were being watched by DPS for some time, executed 15 to 20 search warrants. And they were out with them on that for quite a few hours. I mean, that's see what that was in terms of submittal prosecution. Yeah, thanks all. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. We also have Nick Hartman here from Pinal County Attorney's Office.
There we go, Chairman, Board. Just a few outcomes of the last couple months on State versus Schuler Pennington. This was a good case, good resolution due to, it was a 2018 case, relatively long time ago. He was on warrant status for a couple of years, pretty much that whole entire time. It was good that he got picked up. It was a trailer case, ended up being stolen from someone in the community of Apache Junction. And then that trailer was trafficked and sold to someone else. So it was a great investigation. And that defendant had a couple priors, so ended up getting 7 years in the Department of Corrections. I think that's a good resolution to a 2018 case. The second case recently was Julian Bethea. He had a couple priors. This was kind of an odd case where the defendant kind of came out of nowhere at a truck stop. And unfortunately, the victim ended up leaving the keys in the center console while at that truck stop and took the vehicle. Luckily, they were able to be stopped by DPS fairly quickly. The car ended up only traveling a few miles before being from reported to being stopped. No damage to the vehicle. However, the defendant did have some priors, also a violent prior. So the defendant was sentenced to 7 years in Department of Corrections for that case as well. The second case was State versus Arlene Carlin. This defendant ended up being in possession of a stolen vehicle, as well as a fair amount of drugs, methamphetamine, as well as fentanyl pills. She was charged by possession of drugs for sale, as well as theft of means transportation. She entered into a plea agreement. She only had one prior. However, she was on parole or community supervision when she committed these crimes. So she was sentenced to 6.5 years Department of Corrections on the theft of means case, as well as 7 years supervised probation tail. I think that's appropriate. I always like the probation tails after a sentence in the DOC to properly monitor the defendants. I also wanted to bring up as far as restitution, the last couple of months, I was able to secure $15,000 or estimated $15,000 restitution for victims. And most of this are going to individual victims with older cars that was damaged caused by the vehicle thefts, a lot of forced ignitions. So they've been grateful either, getting a stipulation to restitution or going through the contested hearing, but able to provide adequate documents for the repairs and to get the money back in their pockets have been pretty successful, as well as just something that's been going on lately. I've been working with the juvenile bureau chief in our office is we're getting hit in our community a lot by juveniles stealing Kia cars. I guess there's various YouTube videos going on that Kias are becoming easily manipulated by potential USB drives or being hacked electronically. So that's just something to look out for. As well as my office has been pushing us via policies or procedures to pleading the defendants to the crimes that they're actually committing. So instead of taking a theft of means of transportation to a theft and not really reflecting on their criminal history, because I mean, if I see theft, you're not sure what that exactly is. I mean, theft ranges through the different dollar values. So I think pleading them to the theft of means transportation is adequately reflecting what they did on their criminal history, as well as I'm seeing a lot of unlawful flights. So I've been definitely pleading to, on top of the theft of means transportation, the unlawful flights, either a consecutive term or concurrent, depending on many facts and figures. However, I think it's good to see that on the criminal history, as well as for law enforcement to be flagged that, not only is this defendant stealing cars, but the defendant's putting the community in danger by committing an unlawful flight. It's kind of the same case with misconduct involving weapons. I always like to plead the defendants to misconduct involving weapons, once again, to give law enforcement a heads up that, this defendant is not only stealing cars, but in possession of weapons and might be a danger to the community. Thank you, Chairman, Board.
Thank you, Nick. We also have Peter Goodman with the Pima County Attorney's Office here with us. Turn it over to him.
I don't know. Because I started with the unit.
Right. I don't know. Do we have Brad on the phone?
I can maybe give a brief synopsis of I call one problem an individual that at least I just inherited, which was, I believe it was Tristan Kiefer. He has, I believe, a 22 count indictment for, I want to say, A through D relating to auto theft, aggravated assault, taking the identity of another, prohibited possessor. So we're
And we
kind of
just lost. Okay.
end of the road right here where he has a plea that could pretty much expose him to about in excess of about 40 years. But if, you know, we're probably going to know in about a couple weeks if he's going to set his trial or not. It's one of those cases where it's like, it's not going to get better than 80,000 complete, you know, guilty to, or we can go to trial and, you know, you can be convicted of a dangerous offense and then the other 22, you know, offenses. So I would expect if he takes this plea agreement, he'd probably get in excess of 10 years just based on his, probably 10 to 15 years based on his conduct. But realistically, I can see the judges, even in Pima County, where it's a little more, I would say, liberal with the sentencing, that they would definitely, I would be comfortable with the judge, any judge, that they would help stack him on his offenses. But other than that, I know that Brad Tross usually takes the lead on this, and I just started within the last month, so I'm fairly new to all this.
Great. Well, thanks for being here,
Yeah, no
Peter.
problem.
We appreciate it. Anyone else on the phone for any vertical prosecution reports? All right. I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, everyone else. Next up, Captain Axland with the Vehicle Theft Task Force report.
Good morning. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the following are stolen vehicles, dope seizures, and arrests for November 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. The task force recovered 291 stolen vehicles valued at approximately $5,108,753 with 52 arrests. 17 of those 52 arrests had drug charges. The task force seized approximately 1 gram of heroin, 5.6 ounces of fentanyl, and 5.5 ounces of methamphetamine. Task force authored 8 residential and or business structure search warrants and 4 electronic search warrants. Task force had 411 other agency assists. Task force seized 3 guns. In events and trends, on November 7th, 2022, detectives conducted 2 business inspections that turned into a business search warrant at an auto recycling yard in Phoenix. It started as a LoJack hit. Detectives recovered 3 vehicles in various stages of dismantlement and 4 vehicle doors from vehicles that were reported stolen. The location of those 4 vehicles attached to those doors is currently unknown. The LoJack hit was actually located at a salvage yard next to the original yard, inspected, and 3 stolens were recovered in various stages of dismantlement at that yard. The LoJack hit vehicle was stolen the night before and located the next morning by us. It was already completely dismantled. The business owner was arrested and booked for theft of means of transportation, chop shop operation, and trafficking in stolen property. On November 30th, 2022, detectives served a residential search warrant on a 2-acre parcel located in Tonopah. Detectives recovered 6 utility-type trailers, 1 which was stripped down to the frame, 1 golf cart, and 1 dismantled Chevy pickup. In December, 3 VTTF members attended advanced undercover techniques and survival training in Cedar Park, Texas. Due to numerous chop shop operations found in salvage yards in Phoenix, Operation Broadway Triangle was planned and executed this past Tuesday on January 17th. I'm going to discuss that now. I was going to wait until next meeting, but Amanda has a video she wants to show on it, so I'll give you a little background on it before the video is shown. Due to hitting the media, we used about 120 personnel to hit. We were going to check 14 businesses. 2 weren't open, so we did 12 business inspections, which turned into 3 search warrants at these businesses. Approximately 2,150 vehicles and motors were inspected. 19 stolen vehicles were recovered, and 1 suspect was arrested. He was charged with chop shop operations, theft of means of transportation, and possession of dangerous drugs due to the coke in his pocket when we arrested him. This suspect was one of the owners of one of the salvage yards. Now he also owns all the land that these salvage yards are on, and we're continuing to look into that. And we have ADQ involved, and we're hoping to get some seizure. There was 14 other agencies involved in this endeavor. It is quite a good operation. I just want to thank everybody involved. That concludes my report. Now, Amanda, did you want to run that video?
Sure. Oh, make it mute. Mhm. Did you share the tab? Your video? Where? Oh, I have to share my screen. Sorry. That's not it. It's a tough one. There. Start it over. Great. Thank you. There we go.
My
Thank you.
parents can always check my glucose levels just
Sorry.
by looking at their cell phones.
I share my numbers with my wife and my daughter. And if I'm out in the yard working or busy, she'll come out and tell me, hey, you're going too low. If I'm working hard, it makes me feel good that they're watching.
Local and state investigators busting a suspected chop shop, this in West Phoenix. DPS detectives along with Valley police agencies inspecting 12 salvage yards around 43rd Avenue and Broadway this week. Investigators say that they recovered 19 stolen vehicles and they made one arrest. 36-year-old Mohammed Lafghani was booked on counts of theft, drug possession, and operating a chop shop.
All right. That was it. It was really good case. I know Director McGuffin and Amanda were able to go out and assist. Amanda, I think, took most of those pictures that were used in the news story. So sounds like it was a great bust. So, and that concludes that presentation.
And that concludes my report as well. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. I'll also pile on and say thank you and congratulations. That was a really good case. I saw that in the news the other day, and good to see a large amount of agencies involved in that. So thank you. And it was mentioned in the vertical prosecution. We are seeing a large increase in Gilbert of stolen vehicles for Kias. I think we recovered, 5 in the last week. We think we have some suspects, so Kias are definitely on the rise. So we'll let you know if we need some help. Appreciate it.
Be happy to help, sir.
All right. Let's see. That is it. So call to the public. Is there anyone from the public that has any items to address for the committee? All right. Not hearing. Oh, sorry. Did I mute myself? Did the public call come out, or was I muted for that too? Okay. All right, good. Any items for current events, any updates or any upcoming events? All right, not hearing any. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 31st. We moved that back a couple weeks because I will be out of town for a week or two. So thank you for moving that. We will see you on March 31st. Before we adjourn, I need a motion to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Robert. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. Happy New Year. Thank you for your hard work, and we'll see you all in March.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Okay.